Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 12th in our series of Marine Tech webinars, the last one of 2020. My name is Chelsea. I work for Oceansgate at Plymouth City Council, and I will be your host for this event. Just a quick reminder that during this webinar, you will only be able to hear myself and our presenters speak. We will not be able to see or hear any delegates. After the presentation, we will be holding a Q&A session. Please use the Q&A chat bar and to ask any questions throughout the presentation, and we will answer them all at the end. If you see any questions you would also be interested in hearing an answer to, give it a like and this will send it to the top of the pile. Just a reminder, this webinar is being recorded with the intention to be available to others on demand. Enjoy, and I will now hand you over to our panel of experts from the Marine Business Technology Centre, Vodafone and the National Physical Laboratory.
Thank you, Chelsea. I'll start the presentation. So I'm the initial speaker. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Rob Watson. I'm the director for the Marine Business Technology Centre, and Smart Sound Connect is being administered by that programme. For those of you that are not aware of what that programme is all about, the MBTC is an ERDF funded innovation service that supports the development of the next generation of advanced marine technology. It's led by Plymouth City Council and supported by the research partners, the universities of Plymouth and Exeter, Plymouth Marine Laboratory and the Marine Biological Association. We're based at Oceansgate, and as I say, Smart Sound Connect forms part of our offer. Okay, so by way of an agenda, we've got a relatively short period of time today, so it's really to provide a quick overview. But the most important thing that we're looking for out of this session are use cases for this particular solution. So I'll start with a quick introduction of Smart Sound Connect, what it's all about, how it's been funded, etc. My colleague James Fishwick was going to cover the Smart Mesh Network, which forms a fundamental part of the offer, but unfortunately he's been called away to another meeting, so I'll cover that as well. We'll then cover the Marine 5G network specifically with Jonathan Reed from Vodafone Business. I'll then talk about how we engage and how we develop the use cases and how you can work with us. And finally, there's a session from the National Physical Laboratory. Andre Burgess will be covering a new initiative from them, which is called Measurement for Recovery. Finally, as Chelsea indicated, we'll get into Q&A so we can actually discuss potential elements that people want to talk about. So introducing Smart Sound Connect, this is a 1.8 million Heart of the Southwest LEP supported high-speed marine data network. I think we're fairly confident to say it's the world's first ocean-based 5G testbed and incorporates two fundamental elements. There's high-speed 5G network and a mesh network that covers the extent of Smart Sound Plymouth. Just to elaborate on that a little bit for those that don't know, Smart Sound Plymouth is the marine testbed that we have operating in and around Plymouth Sound. It covers approximately 1,000 square kilometres of water and is available free of charge for eligible businesses to test and prove new technologies. It also incorporates a number of technical elements, including data buoys. We have an unmanned surface vessel that's available for use, and various other pieces of equipment that are owned by the MBTC. It also allows businesses to access the research partners that I mentioned right at the start. The control centre will be hosted at Oceansgate, and as I mentioned, it's free of charge to use. We're looking to go live with the full network in March 2021. and the testbed will run for a full 12 months to March 2022. So there is a window of opportunity here. We are obviously looking for people to come and use the network, and part of the session today is to try and understand what people would want to use it for. Moving on to the mesh network, this is really for offshore, and it incorporates, as I mentioned before, a lot of the smart sound elements, including data buoys and surface platforms. Approximately 20 miles offshore, which allows us to provide a testing environment with high-speed data connectivity that is properly in the ocean. So that means that it's a hostile environment. We have access to deeper water, particularly to facilitate subsurface trials and testing. Water depth is up to 80 meters at the furthest extreme of smart sound. So we're able to conduct very in-depth and complicated trials for clients. I mentioned that it's covering existing offshore platforms. It's important to note that also contained within this are crewed research vessels and personnel that can actually help with trials and testing. We currently have a tender live to actually procure the mesh. That's due to be awarded in February. I'm mentioning this because there may be people on the call that have equipment or would like to bid into this. It is live on OJU, so the European Union journal. So if there's any other details that people require on that, I'm more than happy to provide that separately. Moving on, I'd like to invite Jonathan Reed from Vodafone to cover the marine 5G network.
Thank you, Rob. And so, yeah, Jonathan Reed from Vodafone, head up our defence sector here in the UK. And my team and I are delighted to have been able to work with Plymouth City Council and the team on this exciting project. I've just got a couple of slides to hopefully bring to life a little bit more around the solution. So the first thing to sort of start off with is the requirement. So as Rob described with the IP mesh example, it is of course a challenging environment. We are basically in the sea. It needs to have a solution that is self-contained so that the data is available, or the network is available and the data is secure. And of course it needs to provide the levels of performance that are needed for the various use cases across marine technology and autonomy. There are two specific zones that have been identified for where the 5G testing will take place, and you can see those on the map. So in terms of our solution, we'll be providing two networks, a 4G and a 5G standalone network. The 4G will provide connectivity for vessels travelling from the local ports down to the 5G test zones. And then obviously the 5G environment will be created within those zones themselves. It will be a private network. And at the very most basic level, that means you need a SIM card to be issued to access that environment. Vodafone are providing some of the spectrum, but we're also using shared spectrum so that we can give the best technical solution to the users. And it will require multiple sites. As you can imagine, it's 1,000 square kilometres. We'll be having 3 sites that are located on land. So between Devonport, Mountbatten, and a location at Maker on the Cornish side. That provides our 3 land-based solutions. And then the more challenging and interesting one is actually to put a mast on the breakwater fort itself, which sits just above the 5G zone on the right-hand side. And we'll be using Nokia as our partner, using the NDAC solution for putting this solution together. And the core, as Rob mentioned, will be located at Oceansgate, where the network can be run and end users can access their data. If we can move on to the next slide, I'll just give you a little bit more flavour of the reasons behind our choice of the Nokia equipment. So we partner very closely with Nokia. Got a number of projects that I'm personally involved in. So it's a great partnership. We're doing work with the Navy and also Hariba Mara, where similar kind of examples of test sites are being created to understand the benefits of 5G in autonomy, not just at sea, but on land as well. The NDAC solution, I think, is a really great fit for what we're trying to achieve here. And the availability of 5G standalone is another really good example of being able to be at the very leading edge here in the UK of testing what 5G can really do and how it can operate in those kind of complex environments. I'm no expert on NDAC, but I think the way to think of it is that we're creating a bubble of connectivity that's dedicated to the end customers that will be accessing that network. So a truly private network, all the data stays in the bubble, and NDAC provides some great user interface for both the operator of the network, but also end users who are looking to access their data. So I'll pause there and look forward to any questions. Thanks, Rob.
Thanks, Jonathan. So moving on to the next stage here, I mentioned use case development and engagement. With the network going live in March of next year, we've got a fairly limited time to actually get things done. I just noticed that it should be March 2022 that evaluations are completed. My apologies for that. So we've tried to create a system that's actually very simple to use. So we have a standard application form. Don't worry, people on the call, it's only a one-pager, but it's really to give us an understanding of what clients potentially want to use the network for. This will be going live this week. Will be available via the NBTC website. But if you prefer to speak to someone directly, I'm the primary contact on this for the use cases. So we'll be sharing the presentation afterwards, but my email address is there. So best way of approaching this, I would suggest, is a direct conversation between us and you to understand exactly what it is that you want to use the network for. The next stage that we are looking to get done here is planning and designing the test that will actually take place. As I mentioned before, that's under the remit of the NBTC. It will be managed as part of Smart Sound Plymouth and will be managed in the same way. So that includes all the deconflicting that needs to happen with the various users in the area, the timing, the providing of SIM cards and other equipment that may be needed in order to make the trial go live. Again, the date there is false. We want to complete projects probably by December 2022, so the end of next year. As part of our funding agreement, obviously we need to report back to the funders. So we will be looking to do evaluations in the first part of 2022 to report back and provide publicity and so on this. The idea very much is once this testing time has been completed, we'll be looking for follow-on funding to make sure that this network continues beyond that time period. And there are other projects that are in the pipeline that are supported by this network, including a virtualized testing environment and the potential to extend 5G further out to sea. This is to support other use cases that we're currently working on around smart ports, smart transport, smart shipping, border control, etc., etc. So this is very much a starting point for something that is going to be much larger in the future. But the critical thing at the moment is to make sure that we can support the businesses that want to use the network today and make sure that the trials and so on go as smoothly as possible. So over the next sort of 2 or 3 months, we will be reaching out again to businesses and clients that want to use the network to design the testing to make sure that we're ready to go live in April of 2021. So that's it from me. As I mentioned before, we also have Andre Burgess from the National Physical Laboratory that has another scheme that potentially supports this activity. Andre, can I hand across to you?
Yes, you can. Thank you very much indeed. And indeed, hello, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with all of you today. I'm delighted to be presenting this overview of an industry support programme, a national one, which we've launched from the National Physical Laboratory and our other partners in the National Measurement System. The clue to what we do is in the phrase or word measurement, and that is very much at the heart of what MPL does. And the programme itself is called Measurement for Recovery, or M4R for short. This is supported by our colleagues in the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, or BEIS, and with them we launched M4R to help UK companies in their recovery from the economic impacts of COVID-19. So that we started thinking through this programme as early as March, and we actually had it launched in the second half of the year, and has already proved very, very successful and very helpful for business. So I'll go into a bit more detail. So the measurement science is well placed to help businesses address a range of challenges. And through M4R, we are using our specialist expertise to help UK companies solve problems associated with challenges across business areas, including manufacturing, product development, regulatory compliance, and a lot more. So this may or may not be more relevant to certain people listening in on this call. So what we're doing is we're working with industry, providing up to 20 days specialist support, advice and analysis, and that's provided free of charge. Shouldn't have to cost you anything. The way this works is we're focused on solving analysis or measurement-based issues for companies that cannot be resolved using standard technologies and techniques. Companies must be below their de minimis allowance threshold. That is part of the whole state aid requirements. There is a link to information on the application website, links for which are in this page given here. They can be submitted through the M4R portal on the MPL website. Again, that's the link. They're reviewed and eligible organisations are contacted by the relevant science expert. In some instances, the initial call provides the necessary support. So this is what we've actually found through experience. The project work programme, including timescales, deliverables and terms and conditions, is agreed in that process. And then once that's done, the project is initiated with up to 20 days support. And that's delivered over a period of 2 months. I mean, obviously it could be delivered very quickly, but we have a 2-month time frame for each project. Could you go to the next slide, please? So how to apply and some information around the application process. Well, to start with, it's not a grant funding round, and it requires no direct investment from participants, as I said earlier. Instead, we're working with companies across the UK. As I said, we provide up to 20 days project support from our scientists at no charge. The application process we've designed to make it as quick and easy as possible, usually taking less than 30 minutes to complete the single online form. So we're pleased to hear that you've had 2 discussions today involving very simple forms, and I think that's very important in this particularly challenging time. It's also important to note this is not a competitive programme. Assessment of the applications is based on whether the project is something that the specialised expertise of MPL or our partners can support, rather than selecting one project over another. So it's not competitive, but we've got to be relevant to you is the key thing. And then following receipt of your application, the team will typically respond to you within 3 working days. And from there, successful applicants work directly with the technical leads who will support and deliver their project. Obviously, I'll be available for the rest of this call if there are any questions coming through the chat. And thank you very much. And thank you, Rob and MBTC, for allowing us to present on this.
Pleasure, Andre. Thanks for that. So we wanted to keep the presentation kind of short and sweet, because the key for us now is really to understand what clients actually want to use this network for. Obviously, we see it as a massive opportunity for us, and hopefully you see the same for yourselves. So we wanted to leave plenty of time for question and answers, because it's really being put in place for your benefit. So Chelsea, I don't know whether we've got any questions that we can go on to quickly.
Yep, we've got one question here. So if anyone does have a question, if you at the top of your screen you'll have 2 little boxes, one with a question mark on. If you just click that box and type any questions you have, we can then read them out. So the first question is, I potentially have a use case project involving swarming sensor buoys. Would there be water areas set aside and protected for such trials? The trial may take a few weeks to complete.
Simple. I can pick that one up, Chelsea. Simple answer is yes. So as I mentioned before, as part of Smart Sound Plymouth, all of the deconflicting and management of the space is conducted by us. It's normally a case of understanding exactly how the trial is going to work. We can then look at an appropriate area for that testing to take place, and clearly if 5G is a fundamental element of this, it will fit into one of the two areas that Jonathan highlighted as part of his presentation. But as I said, the next stage of any of these trials or uses that people want to put the network to is to come directly to me. We can have that initial conversation, and we can make a plan as to how that would work.
Okay, thanks, Rob. I'll just give it a minute for any other questions to come through. So we've got another question here that says, sorry, you may have covered it. Is there any costs?
The good news is no, there isn't. The reason that we've funded this through the lab is to try and make sure that it's open or as open and as freely available as possible. The MBTC underpins this. Again, that is funded centrally. So the whole idea is to provide a platform that is easy to access, a test and trial area that is fully managed, that has no cost to the user coming in. So the idea is that we will fully support any trial that people want to conduct.
Okay, thanks, Rob. There doesn't seem to be any more questions coming through. Did you just want to flash up your contact details, Rob? So if people do have any, oh, one's just come through. Will this network allow faster streaming and live streaming of sailing events?
Good question. Potentially it could. Jonathan, I don't know if you want to comment on that, but certainly we're working with a couple of events already that potentially want to utilise the network for that. But I would imagine that that's quite a relevant use case.
Yeah, I mean, Rob, like you, I'm aware of those types of use cases happening in other areas, and certainly the network would be able to provide that communications bearer for that kind of capability or use case. So yeah, it's something we can look at for sure.
Next question is, how are you marketing this facility nationally?
Primarily it's through the website. However, we are talking to a number of different locations as well that are looking to do something similar. What we're trying to do here is to provide something that supports the national agenda, but it won't necessarily be exclusive to Plymouth or the South West. It's very much about how we fit into that national agenda. So we have a number of conversations going on already with other locations in the country, but ultimately it's about providing access to anyone that wants to come along. It is based in Plymouth. The control centre will be in Oceansgate, in Southyard, in Devonport. So the trials will be conducted in our water space, but the idea is that this is a facility that's open to anyone that wants to come and use it.
Okay, when is the last possible date for carrying out a free test?
As I indicated on the sort of engagement process, we have this test bed for effectively 12 months, from March of next year to March of 2022. Depending on the length of the trial, we could potentially facilitate things right up until the end of the project. Clearly, there are weather considerations as well. So again, it depends what the trial involves, but technically, there's no reason why we couldn't be conducting trials still in March of 2022.
Okay, that kind of leads on to the next question that says the time available for trials is quite limited, March to December. Why is this?
Part of it is to do with the nature of the funding that we've received from the LEP. The other thing with this is the conditions for testing. So what we've experienced with Smart Sound Plymouth generally is that there is a testing window, or there's a natural one, between March and September when the weather is best. Now, depending on what people are looking to trial, we do conduct trials outside of that. And in fact, we've done one recently, as in the last couple of weeks, with our unmanned surface vessel, with a client of ours. So it is operational all year round, but the reason that the time is limited is it's the nature of the funding that's being provided. But as I indicated before, very much the plan is to extend that beyond the existing time frame, to have something that's more permanently in place. And part of the activity that we're undertaking now is to prove that there is a need for this in the longer term. So I would say that the more tests and trials that we do, the better, to ensure that this continues beyond March of 2022.
Next question is, are there options for collaborative working with other stakeholders?
Absolutely. A lot of the work that we're doing as part of MBTC is collaborative. We have connections now with nearly 300 businesses that are local, and vast majority of those are very interested in collaborative projects and have specific expertise. So a good example is the FAST cluster, which is the Future Autonomous at Sea Technology group. This comprises nearly 40 businesses that are located locally, and some beyond the Devon border and across the south of England, that have come together to support collaborative projects, specifically in the area of applied autonomy. We have all sorts of other businesses that we are working with that are also open to collaboration. So depending on what the project is, we can certainly broker that. The other thing to bear in mind is that we are underpinned by world-leading research organisations. So as part of MBTC, there is support available from universities of Plymouth and Exeter, Plymouth Marine Laboratory and the Marine Biological Association, all of whom have assets that can be used, all of whom that have research support that can be provided. And clearly Andre has also outlined another support programme that could be relevant to any testing or trial programme that you're looking to achieve. We have other connections with other projects as well that provide additional support. So it's really a case of defining what you're trying to do, and then we can look at how we can best fit that consortium together.
Okay, thanks, Rob. Next question is, what happens to the radio network and core after December 2021?
So the mesh network will remain. And certainly the assets for the mobile network will be there. The next stage, as I say, is to fund an ongoing service that will probably be augmented. As I mentioned before, we're looking to potentially extend this network much further out to sea. But the concept is really to continue it, and part of that is to do with the fact that this is experimental, and there's a possibility of change of technology. Things will move forwards, and the idea is to very much make sure that this is always at the cutting edge of what's possible. So yes, it is limited by time in this particular case, but ultimately the plan is to extend it further.
Okay, next one is, I have a few project ideas but need help to make them reality. Is there any innovation or technical prototype support? Will it be free or are there any grants?
Answer to that question is, with regard to scoping out projects, that's certainly what MBTC does. So there's no charge for that. For prototyping, there are various routes that we can go. I've mentioned the research partners, so there's potentially support available there. But again, it's the cluster of businesses that can assist with building platforms or building solutions or whatever else. Now, clearly that's commercial, but what we've seen in the past is that if there is a collaborative approach to this, then coming together and then bidding for funding is potentially the way forward. Now, as the MBTC, we have some limited funding that we can provide. This is largely based around consultancy to support innovation, and that the next call for that is actually going live in January. They're relatively small grants, and it's about providing additional expertise that we can't provide as part of the core program. In addition, we're linked into a lot of the national funding calls. One of the exercises that we do spend a lot of our time doing is supporting bids into those programs. So very much we're here to try and support in any way that we can. Potentially there is charging for certain activities, but that's something that can be discussed once we get into a conversation about what you're trying to achieve.
We have someone from Aberdeen who is asking, is there associated hot desks that I can use when preparing and carrying out my test?
Absolutely. The plan is to have a control centre based in Oceansgate. That's where the management of the network takes place. We have hot desks already, as part of the MBTC. We're looking to extend those to ensure that we've got enough space for people to co-locate within the management suite. So the answer is yes.
Got someone here that says, have a potential non-UK partner. Can they leverage trial area free of charge also?
Answer is yes. Clearly, we want to make this as open as we possibly can. What we can't cover are the costs of bringing people in from overseas. But if they're willing to cover that themselves, then we can certainly support any project that potentially wants to leverage this network.
A similar question. I'm from the US. Can I use the test site?
Answer is yes, but again, the nature of the network is that the control and the management of it takes place in the UK. There isn't the facility at this point. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Jonathan, to leverage this from elsewhere. Any trials or testing would have to take place within the Plymouth area.
So, Rob, just to build on that, you can create a secure connection into the environment to access data and link it to your own systems, but clearly the physical environment, you need to be there to use it. So I think your point still stands, but there are ways to create secure gateways.
And we can look into that if that's a requirement, correct, Jonathan?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a set of workflows that need to be followed to create that gateway.
Okay.
So last question at the moment. What's the best way to move a funding call forward in terms of building a collaborative approach? Happy to take offline as we have discussed previously.
Interestingly, we've got a call this afternoon on this very subject around a Maritime UK call that's come out. Very much we act as a broker as far as that's concerned. So depending on what the project is and depending what the funding call is, it's probably worth having a conversation as suggested offline to see how we can best support. But very much it's a core activity for the MBTC to try and assist businesses and consortia to gain funding for new projects.
Another question has come through. Will Vodafone be able to help configure gateways free of charge?
Want to take that, Rob? So certainly the solution is set up to allow for these gateways to be configured. That will require work most probably on the customer side to create those connections, but working with Plymouth City Council and PML, we're providing the mechanism and the instructions of how you create those gateways. So yeah, I think we need to probably look at the detail, but absolutely the solution supports that capability.
Okay, thank you. Doesn't seem to be any more questions at the moment. Rob, you happy to take any further questions offline if anyone does have any?
Yes, absolutely. And just for everyone's, I don't have a slide with my email address on it, so I'll just say it. So it's robert.watson@plymouth.gov.uk. So any further queries or follow-ups to the questions that we've had, please come to me directly, and we can get them advanced.
Thanks, Rob. Big thank you to all our presenters today. Everyone on this call has my contact details, so if you need anything further, please feel free to give me a message or a call, and I can always pass your questions or inquiries on. So that is it for today. I'd like to wish you all a Merry Christmas. We will be coming back in the new year with a new programme of webinars, so we'll be posting details about that in the new year. So thank you, everyone. Do our presenters have any final words?
Just to wish everybody the best for the festive period, and we look forward to receiving applications as soon as possible.
Okay, brilliant. I will now close the call. Thanks, everyone.